Okay.
Are you ready to be patronizing?
Ready. All right.
All right.
All right, welcome to the pre-show. As Charles just asked me, am I ready to be patronizing? Yes, I am.
Oh, you can't patronize people who are in such lovely clothing. I tell you, this is the high point of my week when they come filing into the theater dressed this way. Gosh, I think it's amazing.
It is amazing, Charles. Okay, what are you laughing at?
It's a brand new world. It's a brand new day. Everything is fine. It's all good.
Good. I'm glad everything's all good. We're all
Up
in
with
favor
people.
of goodness.
Up with people.
Up
They're the
with
best
people.
kind of people you know. Up with people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm glad we're in perfect agreement here.
Yes.
If people would just be, just kind and nice to each other, all you need is love.
All you need is love. That's very, very true. In fact, what the world needs now is love, sweet love. That's the only thing that there's just too little of.
Gosh, wow, that's crazy because I hear the tune in my head, but I actually don't know what the world needs now.
Yeah.
But who sang that?
Oh, gosh, I forget her name. It was the early 70s, the decade that never should have happened. Look on your fellow man, give him a helping hand, put a little love in your heart.
Gosh, that's another one. Wow.
I'm sure your brother probably sang it to you as a lullaby or something, or maybe he was just annoyed with you. But no,
Wow. Okay.
planting it in your head for later revenge.
Gosh.
Ah.
All right, let's. Oh yeah. Before we get to the questions, you asked at the end of the last pre-show, what are people doing to get through the coronavirus?
And we had hundreds answer.
What?
We had hundreds answer.
No. Well, see, this was
Dozens?
actually a little test on my part because we put it at the end of the pre-show, and so it's like, well, how many people make it to the end? Well, turns out by the end, it's 2 people.
Don't
so
tell
the
me
2
that. No, it's at least dozens.
At least dozens. Well, okay. Well, in any case, 2 people responded.
Well, they won automatically.
They won. So the winners are.
This is the tyranny of the involved. You see, it's as Woody Allen tells us, 3/4 of success is just showing up.
It is. I have to admit, there are just, people I've gone to school with who end up being liberal, and they're just as dumb as a box of rocks. But they really are. But oh my goodness, they're so active on their local city councils that I just think. Well, I mean, as you say, you said it perfectly. The tyranny of the involved.
This is what we should be doing. We should be going into city council. We should be doing local organizations, everything from the Rotary to the local historical society to the Friends of the local land conservancy. Whatever interests you, you should pursue. And as a byproduct, make your own community that much better.
Okay.
Sometimes platitudes are true. Let gratitude be your attitude, so long as it's not a platitude.
Gratitude. Wow. Did you just make that up on the spot?
No, I wish I had.
Oh. Okay. All right. Michael says, I'm getting through the coronavirus lockdown by watching off the menu and dressing well every day in imitation of the perpetually besuited Charles Coulombe.
Wow, what a smart man he is. It's gotten me through half sane. It'll do the same for him.
Yeah. And then Anne says, How am I getting through lockdown? I'm building a beautiful shrine in my home. That's a
Ah,
great idea.
that is home improvement, quite literally.
I've been wanting to do that. What I've been wanting to do. I always have this this fantasy. I guess because like I'm not married yet, and so it's like you want to do it to your own home. I want like walls of things, like at a shrine, like just walls of like different saints and different angels, and just have it loaded, have it so busy. I think that would be really cool. So anyway,
No,
congratulations to our
just saying.
winners, Michael
Oh
and
yes,
Anne.
congratulations to both of you. Those are great ideas, and I recommend them. I recommend both ideas to everyone.
Yes.
Dress well if you're a man, and actually even if you're a woman, dress well. Uh, and actually, ladies, think about this: if you're a married lady right now, living at home with your husband under lockdown, imagine if the two of you started fantasizing that you were Nick and Nora Charles and the Thin Man, and dressed accordingly. Instead of being completely bored every day, you could turn every day into a new adventure. Watch The Thin Man first. I mean, watch all the Thin Man movies, and then, ladies and gentlemen, you married folk out there, do that. Try to reproduce that at home. That same sort of spirit. It'll certainly make life more interesting.
Okay. All right. Our first question is from Anonymous.
Oh boy.
May a Catholic agree to serve as the godparent of a child whose parents are not married, practice no faith, and do not want to baptize their child?
What is that? That's not being a god. I don't know what a godfather in such a thing would be. It's like being a best man at a shack up. I mean, you're a best man at a shack up. What does that mean? It means that you drop by their love nest now and then and have hors d'oeuvres. What? It isn't even a question. You can't have a godparent of either gender if there's no baptism. That's the whole point of having a godparent. Now, if they mean to say they want you to be close to the kid, etc., well, there's only one way you can really do that, and that's to be the godfather. And there's only one way you can be a godfather, and that's that the kid gets baptized. It's
fascinating thing about this question is it begs the question: why do they want godparents?
Oh, I know why. They probably like the guy a lot, and they like the idea that there'd be somebody, if something should happen to either of them, who'd keep an eye on the kid. And that's what it would mean to someone like that. But I think you have to impress upon them the fact that you can't. The whole point of being a godfather is being the godfather at the baptism. So, the problem is that it's like saying, "Would you be my on-call car mechanic?" Except I don't have a car. Well, I appreciate the request. It shows you think well of me, which I'm happy for. But you don't actually have a car, so there's not really anything I can do here. Now, buy a car, and I'll be happy to be your in-house mechanic. But there's not a lot I can do unless there's actually a car to be fixed. Similarly, there's no point asking me to be your in-house chef if you never eat at home. So, I mean, again, I'm sure it shows their great regard for Anonymous. I presume they know his name. And that's nice, and I'm glad they think so well of you. But there's no there.
Yeah. All right. Next question is from Andrew. Who was Archbishop Pierre Martin No Took? I hope I pronounced that correct.
Took.
Can Charles please explain how he came to consecrate bishops all over the world without papal mandate? Are these considered valid consecrations? What were his motivations? Also relating to my other questions, did he consecrate anyone for the SSPV?
Okay, good questions all. Well, firstly, he was the brother of the murdered president of South Vietnam, President Diem. Secondly, he had been a missionary bishop in Vietnam during World War II, and Pius XII had apparently given him permission to consecrate bishops in those days without consulting Rome because of the emergency situation. Now, obviously that depended upon wartime conditions, but he asserted that it was never officially lifted. Now, after Vatican II, he decided, as other people did, that the whole thing was wrong. Now, here's where it gets peculiar. His mental state has been a matter of great debate. Whether or not and when he was crazy, whether or when or not he was senile, and that has been talked about particularly with reference to various actions of his, condemning the Vatican, being reconciled with the Vatican, consecrating bishops, of whom he consecrated a lot. Now, were those valid? The answer is, I don't know. I certainly have read a lot of argumentation on both sides of the thing, and I don't feel qualified to make a judgment. And that brings us to the last question. I don't know about, I think he might have done, but I really don't know about his connection with the SPV. He consecrated quite a number of bishops. So it's certainly possible, but I really don't know. And if I'm wrong, any SSPV supporters out there are very free to correct me.
All right, next question is from Theo. Dear Charles, who would you say were the 3 best dressed kings of all time?
Oof, that's hard. One of the great things about being a king is that you've got the resources to dress well. It's easier to dress well if you're a king than, say, if you're the town drunk. But let's divide it in 2. So I'm going to give you 6 instead of 3.
Okay.
Quote unquote modern and older. So I would say for modern, the best dressed monarchs would probably have been Franz Joseph of Austria-Hungary, Edward VIII, and Edward VII, his grandfather. Okay. Those 2 in particular were regarded as fashion plates in their own time, and in fact, 2 of their particular customs have survived to this day. We leave the bottom. Well, I have it right here. The bottom button of my waistcoat's unbuttoned, and always is, because Edward VII did it, and so everyone does it. You always leave your the bottom button of your waistcoat unbuttoned, in emulation of Edward VII. Why did he do that? Well, because there was a lot of him. That's why.
Yeah. Okay.
He was a big guy. And then Edward VIII, as Prince of Wales, gave us the soft-fronted dress shirt. You know, the pleats?
Mm-hmm.
That came from him, instead of the hard that I prefer. I mean, I frankly, the 50th, 48th anniversary of his death was yesterday, I think. And I remember it very well. I was a kid, but I remember his death. I think I was 11. And, yeah, I remember that. But he was definitely a fashion plate. Now, older kings, further back in time, I would say probably the biggest fashion plate of the late 18th century was King Gustavus III of Sweden.
He's Protestant. That doesn't...
Well, I mean, you can't have a fashion sense. Yeah. I mean, Edward VIII and Edward VII were Protestant.
Well, that's true, actually. Okay, fine.
And I got to tell you, he spent quality time with Pope Pius VI.
Okay.
Yeah, people didn't know that, but it's true. The second individual on my plate would be Louis XIV, Le Roi Soleil, the Sun King.
No surprise there.
And, I was going to say Emperor Charles V, who really dressed very well. But instead I'm going to say King Charles I of England. He was a pretty natty dresser for the 17th century.
What are you going off of for these examples? Just paintings, or?
Well, yeah, I didn't know any of these people personally.
No, I mean, like, were there writings like, oh, wow, everybody emulated this, he was...
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. All right, we have a bunch of questions from Joseph. Superfan Joseph.
Okay.
Vincent, I have bought many books from you, and I have watched every single Off the Menu episode and pre-show.
Do you think that he took advantage of the $25 free shipping and handling offer?
He always does. He always buys a truckload of books. Okay, I've always wondered where the name Tumblar House came from. Would you care to educate us to the meaning and significance of your business name? Okay, well, it's pretty simple. The origin is from Bill Biersack's first book, The Endless Knot. And if you've read it, you know about the Knights Tumblar. And the Knights Tumblar, they're trying to be witty with that because it's an amalgamation. The word itself is an amalgamation of two different objects combined. You have the Knights Templar, obviously. So that's like the religious aspect of the group, kind of a new age of chivalry. And then, like a tumbler glass, yeah.
Because they drank.
Yeah, drink. So, that is sort of, and I think that does accurately represent the mission of Tumblar House, which, is to convert people to become glad trads. People, I always say one of the great lies in America is that religion is some stuffy, puritanical, no fun thing. And that's such a diabolical lie. And so that's what we try to combat with this show. And that's our mission. That's the center of our mission, and I think that's where we fit in compared to every other fine apostolate out there who does a good job. But this is sort of our little niche.
Yeah.
And so that's it. And really, and to go a little bit further on the group, the Knights Tumblar, that sort of represented, or that sort of was modeled after perhaps a real life group of various what's a better word for shady?
Shady? What are you talking about, shady? We weren't shady.
Oh wait, I didn't say you. Whoa, wait, did I say you?
You were implying.
Oh, okay.
It was a fictionalized version of a very fine group of upstanding young men in their 20s and early 30s who ran around that old town in formal wear, white or black tie, having all sorts of extraordinary adventures, getting involved in various theological scuffles, and also, having a very good time. And the Knights Tumblar, they call themselves the Drones Club, after the fictional drones of P.G. Wodehouse.
Yeah.
Bill Biersack, having been one of their number, actually immortalized several of their real-life escapades in his books. He did draw on real life for some of the craziest episodes.
I bet the Starfire one was pretty close to real life.
Yeah. It wasn't quite. Yeah, it wasn't quite so insane, but it was. Yeah,
No, but I knew just like that. I could see the Archdiocese doing that.
Yeah, and we went and had a. Well, it's kind of an amalgamation, I think. A little bit was an actual encounter with a witch. Another was your brother and I seeing Gene Redpath in concert. Uh, but it was several things, and of course the Tumblars pretending to be ghosts at that hotel bar.
Oh, of
That was
course.
lifted directly from
Yeah.
real life. A lot of that's the funny thing, ladies and gentlemen, about Bill Biersack's books. A lot that's in them was actually drawn from real life, and I won't tell you which character was allegedly modeled on me. You'll have to get the
Oh,
books
wow.
yourself.
That's so hard to guess. Oh, gosh. Wow. I
Ahem.
have to really rack my brain over this one. Okay.
This
Gosh.
is unfair, given the fact that your brother is one of the characters, and B, that our audience are likelier to know me than your brother.
Oh, that's fine.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
but um, yeah, I mean that's what put it together. Little did we know that we would end up inspiring one of our members to write these novels, or that the novels would be published by what has become one of Southern Arcadia's greatest literary powerhouses.
Boy, ain't that the truth. Just a couple things. Gosh, just talking about the book makes me want to just plug it and promote it and just delve into it. It's one of the wittiest books I've ever read.
Yeah,
Bill really shows off how witty he is with so many just enjoyable scenes. One of my favorite scenes I'll give away is the one where the protagonist, I guess you could say, Martin Feeney, talks with a Satanist, and it makes the point that Satanists actually believe in the Catholic religion. They're just on the wrong end, right?
the wrong end of the telescope.
Like if they didn't have belief in the Eucharist, then desecration of the Eucharist is meaningless.
Yeah,
And so it's a strange realization that these people actually believe the Catholic religion.
in a sense.
In a
Yeah,
sense. I mean, obviously, Satan is the father of lies, and they're victim to all other sorts of, his deceits. But it's a strange thing that they believe in Jesus and the Eucharist. And
well, our Lord said, "The devils believe and they tremble,"
yeah. Yeah, well,
and that
yeah. Yeah, what else was I going to say about Bill? Oh, but yeah, Bill, Bill, I think is I've never said this before publicly, but he is the single most versatile creative artist I've known.
yeah, yeah,
Let me just explain this. He is an incredible writer. He's a musician too, and
oh
puts
yeah,
out good stuff. And if that weren't enough, the other great secret is he is, or at least was, an unbelievable painter.
yes,
He has, I don't know if you've seen this painting. We've never talked about this. It is one of the most evocative paintings I've ever seen in my entire life that was in his basement. And I don't want to get too personal. I guess I should shy away, but gosh, it was such a powerful painting.
well,
Yeah.
he is, as you say, he's an incredibly versatile artist, and it really was to your brother's credit that he took all this in hand. Because I'll tell you, you'll remember this, but Malachi Martin's agent tried to shop The Endless Knot around. She loved the book, but the publishers she brought it to all wanted all the Catholic stuff cut out of it, and that would have killed the story. It would have killed the book. So,
Well, that's the Tumblar House market right there. You guys want to know what fiction we publish? We publish the stuff that is too Catholic for the secular publishers and too edgy for the Catholic publishers. So,
yeah,
but
that's
because both sides are, in my brother's words, small-minded, there's a lot of great fiction books that we were able to snag, and nonfiction. The End of Democracy. The End of Democracy. We should have never been able. I don't know how that book fell into our lap. That is mind-boggling. Mind-boggling. Charles's books.
You could thank me.
I mean, the insanity of. I don't even. It's unreal. It's absolutely unreal. And talk about small-minded. No, I'm not gonna besmirch the name of people who turn their back on you, so to speak. But a lot of injustice in this world. But
what? Injustice? Let me tell you something. Right now, all across this great land of ours, people are turning out en masse to break the pandemic lockdown. In Minneapolis, in Atlanta, in what?
I had to process that. It took me a couple seconds to process. Yeah, we're gathering en masse to end the lockdown. Yeah.
Power to the people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nationalize the means of production. I'm telling you, that's what's going on. They're breaking the lockdown.
I'm gonna steer away from this because we'll talk about this for about 30 minutes if we get into it. So
all right, let's move along.
Okay.
We'll save it for the real show.
Yeah. Okay. And so Joseph has a bunch of other questions.
All right, let's do them.
Charles, thank you for providing a great Catholic and historical education through your writings and show. I am a Navy veteran with a love for Catholic military history. You have mentioned Claus von Stauffenburg. I found many books about him. Are there any specific ones that you can recommend, especially those that shed light on his devotion to the Catholic faith?
Oh, gosh. I really wish I could. There's one I've read which I really liked, and I cannot for the life of me remember either the name or the author. Maybe it was called Secret Germany or something. I forget. But it was really well done. Yeah, and Stauffenberg is one of my personal heroes. He was just an extraordinary man and a real in every way. And he was in an impossible situation, and he did the best he could with it. And he agonized over the decision to kill Hitler. Consulted a priest. Went to confession before he did it. In every sense, he was just a great fellow.
Yeah. Also, you mentioned in the last episode, King Albert and his son, King Leopold III of Belgium. Are there any honest biographies and historical accounts you can recommend for us to read about them?
There, I actually can help you. There is a website devoted to the Belgian royal family and its more Catholic aspects called The Cross of Laeken, Laeken. It's a blog, really. And they have a lot of really good information about both Albert and Leopold. Now, if you're either adept at French or you know how to use Google Translate, you could put in ASBL Roy Albert 1. Roy is R-O-I, it's Roi, French. Roi Albert Premier. Roy Albert 1 is in Roman numeral, which is a website devoted to King Albert I of the Belgians. And then there's something called it looks like Cercle, C-E-R-C-L-E, Cercle, Leopold III. Look both those up, and you'll find a lot of information in French on both men. But as I say, The Cross of Laeken is in English. It's very well written. Laeken, L-A-K-E-N, is the suburb of Brussels where the royal family live.
Okay. You also mentioned in the last episode that your brother was SF. What is that? Special Forces?
Yeah.
I'd like to know more about your brother and his military experience, if possible. Whoa.
Well, he started out in Special Forces. He did a lot of interesting things in a lot of interesting places.
What happens in Special Forces stays in Special Forces, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's kind of like Vegas without the fun. No, I mean he got around to some unusual areas, and then he went out of Special Forces and went into civic affairs, administration, things like that. He assisted in the Great Drug War in various countries in Latin America, and so he was with Southcom for a long time, both when they were in Panama and then later when they were in Miami. One of the funny things about that was that he came back to my dad's funeral, and he didn't have dress blues. He only had the dress whites, which led Bill Biersack to dub him the Good Humor Man, which he did not appreciate at all. But
that's kind of an old-timey reference. So the Good Humor Man is an ice cream man, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Who wore a white uniform.
Yeah.
And he, wore a peaked cap.
We're not all
uniform.
boomers, Charles, okay? We're not all boomers, okay? These things are difficult for us.
Okay, millennial.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Grandpa millennial to you.
Yeah.
Baby boomer and grandpa millennial.
Yeah. So you can say okay boomer, I say okay millennial.
Yeah.
But the Good Humor Man wore, and of course Bill Biersack is a boomer's boomer, like my brother. They're the same age. So he said he looks like the Good Humor Man, which Andre did not appreciate. He didn't.
Your brother doesn't seem to have a sense of humor.
Oh, he does. He's very funny, but he doesn't like anything military joked about.
Oh, okay.
That's why I sent him a picture of the first gay wedding at the Cadet Chapel at West Point.
Oh, I'm sure out of just a genuine willingness to share.
I just wanted him to see what was going on, that's all.
Yeah.
Keep him abreast of the times, as it were. And he actually reacted as though I was trying to needle him.
Oh, wow, what a misunderstanding.
Absolutely. You talk about hurt. But no, he was 30 years in the Army Reserves, which meant occasional deployments. And now he's still in the State Guard, serving as a volunteer. He ended up as an 06, and he's a colonel in the State Guard now. He was an 06. He retired as an 06, got the Legion of Merit, so he did something right. Yeah, so that's it.
Okay. I'd like to hear about your military service, Charles.
There's not much to tell. I was a cadet at New Mexico Military Institute, went to the Guard immediately after. And my few years in the Guard were all basically training.
Okay.
You got to remember that this was during the 1980s when the Guard were not going to be deployed with anything except World War III. And so our motto then, and you couldn't say it about the National Guard now, believe you me, those guys get deployed over and over again now.
Oh.
But in my day, we used to say, sleep well, America. Your National Guard does. I wish more than anything that the lads and the girls that are serving now could say the same thing. And I am sorrier than I could say than they can. If they can.
Right. Charles, are you writing a book about monarchy? There's a good deal of unique monarchy ideology in Off the Menu. If not, would you consider writing such a nonfiction book for the case of monarchy?
Well, of course, in a sense, I did with Star Spangled Crown.
Yeah.
But I am thinking about something a little more in-depth. The thing is that you can't isolate monarchy as a sort of cure-all. uh, to function, it's dependent upon a lot of other things, religion, national tradition, and so forth. The problem that my fictional king had in Star Spangled Crown was trying to assemble all that. It's easier here in Europe, where it's already here.
The book I promoted by Cardinal Sarah, The Day Is Now Far Spent, the introduction is on Judas, and who today is a Judas. And I didn't go into this, but it's such an important message. He said everybody who believes in social activism over prayer is a Judas. We model ourselves after big business, that we accomplish big things, and this work ethic. Those people are a Judas. Because you ultimately have to have faith in prayer. It's not men that move the world. It's God who decides what is going to happen. And that is such an important message. I always try to fall back to that. And I guess perhaps that's why I always try to remind people about monarchy, like, we need to pray first. We need to have Catholic people first. It's not a movement, or, it's not a social movement or something or other.
And it's not as though you can separate it from our religious problem. I mean, basically, the West, the political problems that we see in the West, precipitated in many cases by the overthrow of their monarchies, were nevertheless a reflection of a deep cultural problem. But that cultural problem was a reflection of the deep religious problem. So, as I've often said, I really doubt that anything quite like what I describe in the book would ever actually happen. What is likelier to happen is a collapse or overthrow of what we know, followed by, if the West is smart, a rediscovery of their faith. And then, finally, a redevelopment of a Catholic society, which I have no doubt would include monarchy. But we're a long way from that. And don't get me wrong, I mean, if somehow, some way, the opportunity came up to do something about it, I'd be very happy, and I would do whatever I could. You never know, because these things, as you say, they come from God. So sometimes you get an opportunity that you don't expect.
Yeah.
But and then you do your very best, and you either succeed or you don't succeed. You do your best. But in terms of sitting down and putting together a 20-point plan to transform the United States into a Catholic monarchy, I don't think it's going to work that way.
Yeah. One of my favorite questions that was very illuminating, I think it was like episode 6 or something, like really early on in the show, someone asked, how can we bring chivalry back? Now, I'll never forget your answer. You used the metaphor, that's like asking, how do we bring tea cozies back? The coverings of teapots. Well, you bring tea.
You bring tea cozies back by drinking tea.
Yeah. So it's a byproduct. So my question here is monarchy a byproduct of Catholicism?
Catholic monarchy is.
Catholic monarchy.
Just like Catholic marriage is.
Yeah. Well, and that's what we want, Catholic monarchy. So, again, I don't want people to get caught up in political happenings, whether it's monarchy or whether it's pretty, I don't know what the word is, but middle of the road, watching Fox News every night, Tucker Carlson, and getting pissed off at the television every night. I don't want you to do that to yourself, because it really is a never-ending battle politically. And
it's a never-ending battle because neither side is correct.
Oh, well, yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, I don't, the Republican Party is not our religion, not even close, And
at the end of the day, very often, especially in how many elections do you find yourself being asked to vote for the lesser of two evils? So often it's a case of, all right, who you backing, Al Capone or Legs Diamond? Well, I'm not really into racketeering and the mafia. So do I have to back either one?
That's one of the huge problems, I think people have to see this and have a good, honest look about how things are. You see people voting for Hillary, not because they like Hillary, but because Trump can't get in. And you got people voting for Trump because Hillary can't get in, even though that's kind of more, we're trying to save lives
keep
with
her
pro-life.
out.
Yeah,
but
I have a feeling that's going to be a burgeoning trend. I don't necessarily like this person, but I'm going to vote for him. As you say, basically the lesser of two evils.
The lesser of two evils. I got to tell you something. I'm gonna make an admission here. My brother and I, ever since our dad was alive, and both of us could vote, the three of us, and then we carried on after Dad died. So it's the two of us now. Every election, we would sit down with the LA Times and the sample ballot and various other things and go over who we were going to vote for. So we didn't vote, so we didn't cancel out each other's votes. And this, it really started actually before we could vote, because my dad would sit us down when we were boys with all this material. And Dad voted in every election, not just federal, state. If it was just a municipal election, he voted. He was a World War II vet and, on a certain level, believed very strongly in this stuff. But he would do his research, his due diligence, as he said.
Yeah.
And one of the terrible things of voting for things like judges and county committees and all that, because you never heard of these people. So, and then the constitutional alterations of the state constitution that always come up, and you got a hard time figuring out what it all means. Well, he taught us certain shortcuts. Look at who's backing a measure. That's always a good turn. Look at who's recommending a judge. That's always a good turn. But it was funny. He had his rule of thumb when it came to constitutional issues. He said, if you can't understand it, vote no. Because it was designed not to be understood. So you know that someone somewhere who shouldn't be benefiting is going to benefit.
Yeah.
And then, there were other things too, like bond issues. If you don't have a property, if you don't own property, you should always vote no on a bond issue. If you do own property, we'll vote whether or not you think the bond issue is a good thing. But if you don't own property, you should vote no. Can you guess why?
You've said this many times.
I have. Because you're not paying for it.
Yeah.
So I mention all this because notice that none of us looked at voting as a panacea. Well, my brother and I, in the last election, we made kind of a weird suicide pact. Now, he and I have voted third party for a long time. And we did so in 2016. But we made this suicide pact. If one of the Trumpsters' appointees had knocked down Roe v. Wade by 2020, we would vote for him. He's got till November.
Well,
he's got till November. If Mr. Justice Kavanaugh or any of these other guys knock down Roe v. Wade between now and then, he's got my vote.
Well, isn't that between your approval of the judge? I mean, what is Trump? I mean, Trump did his part, no?
Well, he's got the judge. He put the judge in.
Yeah, so...
But you see, the thing is, if you really want to get Roe v. Wade knocked down, you put in a judge you know is going to knock down Roe v. Wade.
Is there such
it's
a
really
judge?
Not. Of course there is. You can find him.
Can you though?
Sure.
Where?
He might be Borked or Kavanaghed as part of the process, but yeah. And you know what? If he really wanted to go wild, he could knock it down with an executive set aside, the way Mr. Bush Jr. did with Guantanamo.
I know you've talked about this. That was 30 years ago.
It wasn't 30 years ago. Are you mad? This is Bush Jr.
Oh, was it Bush Jr.? Not Bush
Yeah.
Sr.?
No, it was Bush Jr.
Okay, Charles.
I mean, it's just like he could have saved Terry Schiavo. He didn't. But he did arrest the judge in Alabama, the Chief Justice of Alabama, who wouldn't take down the Ten Commandments.
Well, Charles, some people in Austria, I could see how you don't care about what Trump did for the churches because, hey, you're in Austria and you've got your black market, so everything's fine.
Hey, you benefited
for
from
us
my black
people
market.
who are suffering here. That was incredible, and I'm grateful for Trump. We're going to keep America great again.
Well, that's great. I'd like to see that. I'm watching it now on TV. You've benefited from my black market connections. Never forget that, Sonny Jim.
Well, I wonder why. Someone guilty conscience.
I don't have one.
You're sitting in the lap of luxury over there.
I could get you a cancionera if you needed one. Yeah.
You mean quinceañera? What, like, are you talking about the Spanish coming of age for women?
Yeah. If you needed one, I could get it for you.
Boy, that was a butchering of pronunciation if I've ever seen one.
Well, so what? I'm in Austria, as you pointed out.
You stay in Austria.
I could get you one of those things. Like that. Couple calls, and you would be on the market.
Okay, great, Charles, great. I'll call you in 15 years or so.
Or 16.
Or 16 years, yeah.
I don't know,
Yeah, okay.
That's 15.
Yeah.
But the kid's got to be born first.
Yeah, the kid's got to be born first, yeah. Okay.
Otherwise, It's going to be like being a godfather without a baptism.
Yeah. You can do
a quinceañera without a girl.
Yeah, okay. God.
Oh, it's wonderful. We're putting on a quinceañera for my daughter. Well, I see. What's your daughter's name? Well, actually, we don't have a daughter.
Gosh.
Well, why are you doing this? Well, just that'd be so wonderful. You're getting a headache.
We're not too far off. See, that's the thing. Like we're encroaching into this amorphous surrealism.
Why? If you and your wife really want to have a quinceañera for your imaginary daughter, why should you be stopped? Why don't you have a right to it?
Exactly. Well, see, that is sort of what's underneath the sort of Enlightenment consumerism is, well, if you have a desire and there's a market for it, why not? Why shouldn't you get what you want? And no one's hurt, and no one's hurt by it.
No one's hurt at all. And there's nothing even immoral about it. And you've got all these other girls lined up, the way they do at the actual ceremony. It's just that no one's standing there. And the two proud parents are grinning. The priest is saying the prayers. The only thing missing is the 15-year-old girl. And they have a big party afterwards. They've got a mariachi band, and it's wonderful. It's just, I just see the father dancing by himself in the middle of the room. And he turns, everyone, I want you all to be happy. Today is Maria's quinceañera. And I'm sure she really existed. She would be as happy as her mother and I are today. Yes. Oh, that's beautiful. It's a wonderful thought. Oh gosh, what's the next
That's
question?
it.
I can't
That's
take
it. We're
more.
ending on that. We're ending on quinceañera without the girl.
I think that's beautiful. I think we're breaking down all the barriers. You know what? And forget the wife. As a husband, why shouldn't you don't have a wife or a daughter, so you want to throw one for your non-existent daughter, and you'll be flanked with your non-existent wife.
That's crazy to the third power. We were at
Well,
crazy
no, I
squared.
think it's beautiful.
We were at crazy squared, but then you just keep upping the exponentially.
The crazy part, actually, isn't even the father of the non-existent daughter with his non-existent wife. It's the priests and the guests and the girls standing there for their best friend, who doesn't exist. And all their parents are very proud. They're real.
Okay.
And of course, all the fathers would come up, and pat him on the shoulder. You must be very proud of your Maria today. Oh, yes, yes. And Carlotta's very proud, too. Aren't you, dear? Nothing happens. Nothing's said.
Okay. Well, we're going to try to bring this fun and energy to the full episode, so stay tuned, everyone.
Thanks. And remember, you're all invited to the quinceañera.